welcome. We are excited that you're here. We have almost 900 registrants, which is just amazing. So this is fun. I am Michelle Chogish. I'm the Director of Programs with the Michigan Works Association. On behalf of all of our staff, we are super excited that you're here, and we really thank you for coming to this presentation. We also want to thank our sponsors and exhibitors because they are amazing and have really helped us put this thing together. So we thank you so much for that. You are in the session titled Opportunity Apprenticeship. It's launch time with Scott Jedele. So if you're not supposed to be in that one, or you want to be in something different, then you're more than welcome to hop out when you want to. I also want to say a big shout out for Michigan Works Region 7B because they are a sponsor of this actual workshop session. So thank you so much for doing that again and being a big part of this event. Okay, so before we forget the day going here, there's a few things that I've got to make sure that you know, the housekeeping rules. So I don't know if you heard or not, but Scott is going to try and we'll take questions maybe at the end. He may get some things answered during the presentation. So please put your questions in the chat. I will be watching the chat and making sure that there's anything that needs to be asked other than that. But so that's where the day will go. I will also put in the chat links to the survey at the end. It's really important for us that we get your feedback on all of this. We are excited about all of our speakers and know that the content of this whole conference is going to be pertinent to everybody, but we really want your feedback. So I will put a chat or a link in the top of the chat so that you have that right at the end that you can just send the survey off to us. So it should be pretty simple. I also will be entering some Twitter, Facebook handles, just so if you want to Twitter and you are real good at that and you can, you know, get the word out there of how much you're doing and you're enjoying. So I think that's it anyway, but I'm going to turn this over to Scott Jedele, who is Administrator Manager with the state of Michigan. So take it away, Scott.
Thank you, Michelle. You're so gracious. Thanks for hosting the event, and I'll join you in thanking Region 7B for their support in this session. So thanks for making it possible, and good morning to you each. So is my presentation format looking good? My screen looks a little different than yours, but can you see the presentation? Great. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, so we will get started. Thank you for joining us. I know you had lots of choices for excellent sessions to attend this morning. Thank you for choosing this one. I know I was tempted to go to another one as well instead. And I came because I thought you might be here. So I'm excited to be here with you. It says on my screen, Michelle, that we still have a little feedback noise from yours. You might have muted, but if you didn't.
I did, and I am going to mute right now.
Okay,
we were just
thank you.
talking about that. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So then let's get started. One moment, please. There we go. Okay, good morning again. A few thoughts up front. Obviously, this is also my first virtual conference, in this case, the 2020 Michigan Works Virtual Annual Conference. And I join Michelle in kind of being really excited about this opportunity. And a couple of thoughts up front, just kind of during the beginning of the session already, I noticed, oh my goodness, how efficient, right? I put on a tie for us all this morning. And it's much more efficient to tie a tie for a virtual conference because the tail in this case was much longer than the front, and it really doesn't matter because I don't intend to stand up. So you all will see what looks like a perfectly tied tie. Usually, especially in industry, we start by talking about where the washrooms are and the emergency exits. And you know where the washrooms are for you far better than I do, so we don't even have to talk about that. I did have an excellent cup of coffee out in my lobby before I came into this session here. I don't want to pick on the conference. Michelle and Kimberly and everybody works so hard to make sure it's successful, but I got to tell you, I found the breakfast buffet to be a little bit underwhelming this morning, so I was a little bit disappointed with that. But I think the key to a really excellent conference is location, location, location. And this one works really, really well for me. Easy drive, excellent parking, and I gotta be honest, the accommodations for me feel a lot like home. This one is called Opportunity Apprenticeship. It's launch time. Michelle and Kimberly were kind of aggressive about, you guys really got to come up with a great title, right? You need something really catchy. And my mind went right to lunch. And I thought, if I could just say it's lunchtime, right, then a lot of people are going to come and listen. So if you're like me and you read that as it's lunchtime, it's not yet, it will be soon. We're going to focus on opportunity apprenticeship. So I'm Scott Jedele, and I work in the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Employment and Training. What a great name, right? Because we're going to talk about the opportunity that is apprenticeship. And when I look at that for real, I kind of look at that corner on the right and I think to myself down below, wow, apprenticeship is employment and training. So it's like we've got a solution. We're going to significantly increase the value of this session for you by adding the word registered in the top title line, because we're not just going to talk about apprenticeship, we're going to talk about registered apprenticeship. And if you don't already know, you're going to understand shortly here while there's extra value in it for you and for those that you serve. And then it's launch time. So why are you here? Well, we said with more than $19 million in active U.S. Department of Labor grant program awards to support expansion activities, the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity needs you. So I see two elements just in the first line. Some might have been attracted by the number of dollars that we mentioned. And we're not going to give any dollars away this morning, but we are going to tell you how you may be able to access those dollars for your region as an opportunity here in a few minutes. And then needing you, that pulls at the fact that you may feel like you need to be needed. Learn how you can help expand the number. And many of us like to help and we like to learn. So the number of registered apprenticeship opportunities in Michigan to accelerate the growth of more than 6,000 skilled workers, with more than 1,000 being youth in 3 years. Well, that sounds pretty challenging to me. And a lot of us are here because we like a challenge, and you're in the right spot because that's what we're going to talk about. A work plan, which is pretty important, overview will summarize innovative expansion activities that will leave you wanting to be more deeply involved. And which of us doesn't want a better relationship, right? So it's launch time. The session outline, just to let you know where we're at, looks like this. Why it matters. The survey says where we are going. If we're going to launch, it must mean we're going somewhere. How we're going to get there, and your role. So why it matters. Registered apprenticeship has many benefits. Part of its biggest benefit is the structure that it brings to both employment and to training. The structure is probably the largest challenge for selling apprenticeship and expanding apprenticeship. It's also probably one of the largest benefits. Many people will say, well, you mean in a year or in 2 years or in 3 years, I've got to lay out the entire program up front? That brings the structure, both the training on the job elements and the classroom elements. But it's also what makes apprenticeship such a big benefit. The 5 key elements, and these are good refreshers for any of us, even if we already think that we know a lot about apprenticeship, they're great reminders. Employer involvement, which is actually something talked about in our opening session this morning, and the importance of that. Apprenticeship begins with employer involvement because it starts with a job. Structured on-the-job learning, which is on-the-job training with an experienced mentor, is another big benefit. Who doesn't want to learn their job from somebody who already knows exactly what it is and how to do it well? The third key element is related instruction, and related is the key. We recently were presenting these same sets of key elements to a board, and the chair mentioned, what an amazing strategy. She said, I was working the entire time I did my bachelor's degree program and my master's degree program. She said, one of the most frustrating things is that what I was learning in the classroom almost never brought any value to what I was doing in my job. This is the solution for that. There are rewards for skills gains. So increase wages for the skills that you gain. That just makes sense. Dollars and cents. Then there's that national occupational credential. U.S. Department of Labor, and it's industry recognized. So that makes even a higher value for this program, and that it fulfills a lot of requirements that we have not just as workers, but also as businesses and as a state. An important note is that non-registered programs, and we have plenty of them in Michigan, may or may not have any of these 5 key elements. While there are some non-registered programs that are really, really excellent, they're very few. And most times when we involve ourselves in non-registered apprenticeships, we find that we don't complete the programs, we get real busy, both either the worker and or the employer, and lots of times completion is not a result of the effort. Why it matters specifically to employers is that immediately apprenticeship, registered apprenticeship, fills job openings with motivated workers learning precisely the skills they need. I love the comment from the previous session where Dave Colder mentioned that employers said, I would hire more people if they had the skills I need. When they hire an apprentice, they're going to build the skills that they need. Because hiring an apprentice immediately starts a rapid transfer of knowledge from current to future high-value workers. I'll say it again. If you're looking to expand apprenticeship in your region, or you're thinking about taking it on as an employer or working as an apprentice, this is key. It starts a rapid transfer immediately of knowledge from the current to the future high-value worker. It eliminates a typical 2 to 6 year cycle or a waiting period when many job seekers are learning only general skills and not the skills the employer needs. And it's an industry-driven solution that facilitates access to related resources like federal monetary reimbursements, GI Bill benefits, participant support, etc. It also reduces employee turnover, which was also mentioned in the opening session. Improves productivity and the bottom line, and that is the bottom line, except for the note that non-registered programs, internships, work-based learning may or may not have any of these elements as well. There are benefits for the job seeker. Earn a competitive wage with scheduled pay increases from day one. Gain high demand skills in on-job learning with an experienced mentor. Gain knowledge through instruction in job-related classroom training. Remember, it's related and it applies to what we're doing on the job. And then earn national industry recognized credentials. In many cases, gain academic credit and minimize or avoid completely tuition debt. Again, guess what? Non-registered programs may or may not have any of these elements and job seeker benefits. But the state also benefits. Michigan is serious about registered apprenticeship expansion. It supports the governor's 60 by 30 initiative to increase the percentage of credentials to 60% by 2030. And it fits for all kinds of occupations. It's not just about manufacturing, although it's an excellent fit for advanced manufacturing, also construction, energy, healthcare, information technology, and mobility, all key occupations to Michigan's success. And it's growing. We have nearly 1,000 programs, actually a few more than that, and nearly 20,000 active apprentices this year, 660 in healthcare. And we also have more than $19 million in active US DOL expansion funds, 6,000 apprentices by 2023. There are also apprenticeship success coordinators in Michigan, ASCs, many people call them or refer to them as. We'll call them apprenticeship success coordinators. And they're in each workforce system region. Another indication of how serious we are about expanding apprenticeship in Michigan. Worth noting is that apprenticeship success coordinators as the expansion mechanism in Michigan may not be the easiest strategy. Many states hire out, I usually call them hired guns, or they recruit hired guns to come into the state to expand and start with employers initiating increased numbers of apprenticeships. But I really think the most powerful strategy, and what we see in Michigan, is that it really makes sense to have the expansion entities be in the regions, know the employers, know the culture, know the region, know the people, and then co-locate them with the same entities that also have access to WIOA funding and support initiatives and other state and federal initiatives all around workforce development. So in Michigan, our expansion happens here. We have a handful of apprentices that we monitor and watch in Lansing, but the expansion to the tune of 20,000 people takes place across the regions in Michigan. And the color of the words apprenticeship success coordinators is intentionally gold because they are. So the survey says, in 2020, towards the end of April, 1st of May, we surveyed the areas to improve in our expansion activities in Michigan. And major thanks to each region and all of those that are trying to work to expand apprenticeship in the regions. We got 16 regions to answer the survey, so thank you very much. We also just completed follow-up interviews with each region. So not all of the concerns or areas to improve are noted here, but a few are. And these are the common ones. We need to increase the regional funding. We're missing the Going Pro Talent Fund in 2020. We need to provide guidance on state, regional, and employer messaging and outreach. We need to improve youth apprenticeship access, pre-apprenticeship, and our alignment with the career and technical education programs in Michigan. We also need to define and promote better strategies for underrepresented population inclusion. Reduce the reporting requirements was a common theme. Simultaneous grant tracking, while we're fortunate to have grant monies and several programs, it's difficult to figure out which one to apply where, and improve access to data to tell us about what's happening with expansion in the state. Improve the registration process, coordinate it better, streamline our activities with the Office of Apprenticeship and Michigan Works Agency processes, and then provide a large-scale campaign to support and promote apprenticeship. The next step in our outline is to look at where we're going. So we see some opportunities and room for improvement. So now, where are we going with that? Well, we look at the areas that we're going to improve in 2020 as the current state. It makes sense then that we would define a destination or the desired state. So you guessed it, each of the things we just talked about is going to have an alternate desired state or destination. For increasing regional funding, we have $19 million in active expansion funds right now in the state, which is pretty exciting. For providing messaging and outreach guidance, we're going to have state and regional system development, which we're going to tell you about, to make the state level and the regional level a more synchronized and integrated expansion system. Youth apprenticeship is going to be aligned statewide. Underrepresented population inclusion is going to happen instead of exclusion. We'll talk a little bit more about how. We're going to have streamlined tracking, reporting, and access to improve not only the data that regions can receive, but also try and streamline the reporting processes used for reporting to the state. And then we're going to improve the registration process by coordinating and streamlining Office of Apprenticeship interactions and processes between the regions. And lastly, we're going to provide an apprenticeship campaign, and it starts today with you right now, I guess probably about 20 minutes ago. So how do we get there? Well, we know it's launch time, and we know we've got a destination to achieve. So we need to have a plan in order to make sure that we achieve our destination and do it in time. So our plan is to set performance metrics. And we did. More than 6,000 new registered apprentices in 3 years. Increased underrepresented registered apprenticeship participation. Increase veterans apprenticeships and GI Bill approved programs. More than 1,000 youth registered apprentices, and more than 100 of those being apprentices that are youth with disabilities. I'm pretty sure that it was Spider-Man, the movie, that said it the best, but as we know, with significant performance metrics comes significant opportunity. How do we get there? Strengthen partnerships. Each of the speakers this morning in the general session did a great job of explaining the value of partnerships. We specify here some critical success partners for our journey. The USDOL Michigan Office of Apprenticeship, improved success and partnerships. Michigan Department of Education, especially critical in youth registered apprenticeship. The Office of Career and Technical Education specifically are full partners in the youth registered apprenticeship work. Michigan Department of Military and Veteran Affairs. These are partners in expanding the numbers of veterans apprenticeship and registered approved GI Bill apprenticeship programs. Apprenticeship starts with the employer. We can't do it without industry and labor partners. We're going to have a new state-level apprenticeship advisory board to establish guidance and direction for the state when it comes to registered apprenticeships. And then we're also going to have Regional Implementation Consortia, acronym RIC, to make sure that we have successful regional implementation. These regional implementation consortia may or may not be new. We think many regions, many areas, and entities already have excellent consortia pulled together, and we're looking for ways to involve them further. These are going to include regional apprenticeship stakeholders. We're asking that they'll be applying for subawards to fund implementation projects through competitive criteria-based requests for proposals, which will be out in the fall of this year. These consortia or implementation teams will lead regional implementation, and they'll work to increase the registered apprenticeship program demand through cost reimbursements for employers sponsoring programs and for service providers. Their work will be establishing new or expanding existing registered apprenticeship programs and registered apprenticeship readiness education. These regional implementation consortia, or RIC partners, will include, of course, employers and organized labor, Office of Apprenticeship Training Representatives, or ATRs, secondary education partners, including intermediate school districts and career education planning districts, Michigan Works agencies, including apprenticeship success coordinators, and one or more post-secondary institutions, along with vocational rehabilitation. How do we get there? Worth noting are some noteworthy plan elements. And these are things that we want to make sure that you see along the way, and we think will help us get to the kind of numbers that we're talking about in our performance metrics. The first one we're sharing, we think, is a Michigan Apprenticeship Readiness Certificate, acronym MARC. So we've got a RIC and a MARC. RIC will establish a MARC, probably my favorite line in the presentation. So RIC, the Regional Implementation Consortia, will work together with employers, and they'll be establishing Michigan Apprenticeship Readiness Certificates. They'll be based on standard guidance from the Apprenticeship Advisory Board, the new board. They're going to confirm that job seekers have achieved defined registered apprenticeship program competencies and skills in a quality pre-apprenticeship program. And they're going to be issued jointly by regional employer and labor partners and educators that provide the related instruction, ensuring that the candidates are well on their way to understanding the requirements for on-the-job learning and for classroom learning. Another noteworthy plan element would be the Michigan Registered Apprenticeship Program website landing page. And it's going to be an improved landing page. This snapshot is of the current landing page. It's going to include improved access for job seekers, for employers, and our primary request from almost every apprenticeship stakeholder is to make it one button push, so that if I'm a job seeker I can come to the site, push a button, and find an apprenticeship. And that's not going to happen. We're tempted to put the Staples easy button on this slide, but it's not reality. However, we are going to take step one, which is a major step towards improving the process. And it's going to mean that we'll have a single source landing page that will provide access to a person in a nearby region with information about occupations, opportunities, and what steps to take if you're trying to prepare for a program and aren't ready yet. We're also going to provide access to the Michigan Office of Apprenticeship if it's an employer that's ready to go and knows exactly what they need. Another noteworthy plan element is a common resource repository. The common resource repository will place lots of materials for outreach, process documentation, best practice documentation, and reference material links index online in one location so we know what to use. Often there's almost too many resources for apprenticeship today, and this will help us find ones that are relevant to what we're trying to do. A Raptor system, in part because it's just a really cool picture of an F-22, but in part because the acronym can stand for Registered Apprenticeship Progress Tracking with Online Reporting. It's an application that serves as an automated e-tool for program tracking and online reporting. And the asterisk is, please don't send me emails, right? It's a placeholder. It's not a current system that exists, but it allows us to develop or procure a system that does exist. This system is an online platform that tracks skills, hours, courses, or a combination of each as needed for the apprentice, for the employer, and for the service providers. Most often, it's mobile access, apprentice-driven. They put their hours or competencies in on typically a mobile device. Then it has an automated nag function that prompts the mentor and the supervisor to sign off on the skills, the hours, and then the completion of courses are added in. And it has automated report builders. We're really excited about the opportunity that that tool brings to the expansion initiatives. And then, of course, from Apprenticeship Learning Network to Apprenticeship Launch Network, we're going to increase the number of Apprenticeship Launch Network sessions that we have. These will be virtual. Our first one is on September 24th with our labor trades partners. And to make full use of the It's Launch Time subtitle, we have the Apprenticeship Launch Network graphic. These sessions are going to be employer engagement focused, hands-on workshops that are themed to increase underrepresented population inclusion, and will be developed with toolkit materials ready for use by the regions that reside in the common repository. Hopefully that makes sense. Then, for those that are keeping track or can see the screen clearly, the entire Apprenticeship Launch Network has booster rockets. Those are not torpedoes, but booster rockets fueled by skills. And we talked plenty already about closing that skills gap. Enhanced regional capacity is also worth noting. Remember, expansion happens here, right, across the regions in Michigan. So increasing the capacity for administrative services in each region will increase our opportunities to expand use of the apprenticeship model for employers and for job seekers. So our counsel and strategy is to invest in that gold. So what is your role in this process? We talked about why it matters, what the survey says, where we're going and how we're going to get there. Your role as Michigan Works Agencies and Apprenticeship Success Coordinators, in part, is to be thanked for your service to date. Those that are Star Wars fans can appreciate the stay on target. You're doing great, and you're multiplying not only the awareness and the knowledge in each region, but you're expanding apprenticeship. Patience and persistence, which you typically apply, equals registered apprenticeship expansion, and the programs are expanding. The current opportunities we have in Michigan and the awards that Michigan receives, that we're honored to receive, are in large part a tribute to your work. So you know that the US DOL funds opportunities nationally where performance is solid and they feel like they'll get a return on the investment. So these opportunities truly are a tribute to your work. Prepare to support the regional implementation consortia. Your work and feedback is critical to program success, and we're going to be asking for you to help those regional implementation consortia put in good proposals and manage the awards that they receive. Well done is the bottom line for you. Regional apprenticeship stakeholders, thank you for your work to date. If you sponsored programs or you provided related instructions, overall we're gaining knowledge and your work was well done. Consider regional projects that align with the expansion work. Many of you have already started, and we'd ask you to consider those going forward for regional projects to be submitted in response to the RFPs. Connect with MWAs, connect with your apprenticeship success coordinators, connect with Office of Apprenticeship ATRs. Become a regional implementation consortia. Draft plans for regional activities. Again, we expect the RFPs to be out this fall with announcements on awards by the end of the year. Employers and labor partners, thank you. Thank you for starting registered apprenticeship programs. Thank you for connecting with key stakeholders. Thank you for preparing to recruit for pipeline candidates. Great video by Operating Engineers 324. Thank you for connecting with job seekers. That's the key to success going forward. Job seekers and parents. Thank you for your persistence. In many cases, searching for opportunities has brought success. Our numbers are increasing. Again, the typical strategy is to use the word apprentice in search strings. If you're trying to find an opportunity for a student, a friend, maybe one of your children. Connect with employers, MWAs, and apprenticeship success coordinators. If you're already employed, ask an employer to start a registered apprenticeship program if they don't have one already. It meets all the requirements talked about in the session this morning. It is about employment and about training. And then other apprenticeship stakeholders, those of us that may be bystanders. I couldn't think of another way to say it, but stop it, right? We're on slide 32. At this point, you know more about registered apprenticeship in Michigan than just about every other citizen of Michigan. So it's time to move, right? Now is the time. We have funding, we have momentum. Most people kind of know the word this year, right? It hasn't been the case in the past. So now is the time. We've never been better positioned. So in conclusion, we talked about why it matters. We looked at what the survey said. It said we've got room for improvement. We talked about where we're going. We're going to improve the areas that obviously by regions need improvement. We talked a little bit about how we're going to get there. We looked at a plan and we said, here's some noteworthy elements. And then we talked about your role and how you help us make it happen and how we help you make it happen. If you're ready for more, mark your agendas. This afternoon at 1 o'clock, Evelyn is going to talk about developing non-traditional apprenticeships utilizing braided resources, pulling together the power of the Regional Michigan Works Agency using the Registered Apprenticeship program model. And then tomorrow after lunch at 1 o'clock, Kevin and Brian are going to talk about building capacity through youth registered apprenticeship. I also noticed there's a couple other presentations and sessions during the conference that talk a lot about the apprenticeship model. So our opportunity is apprenticeship, and it's launch time.
Thank you, Scott. We really appreciate your presentation. We have some time, so I can either go through some of the questions that are in the chat area, or if you would like, I can do some live with people if
I think you should do all of the above. I think you should go through those questions and.
Okay, I'm not real sure how to let everybody in. Thanks, Scott. I'm just kidding. I think I do. I don't know. I say that now, but
You can do it, Michelle.
I think I can. Okay, thanks. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the faith you have in me. I'll start to just ask a couple, and then if people feel like they want to jump in, it's an audio and video section, and you can let me know or put it in the chat. We'll go from there. How's that sound?
Okay, great.
And forgive me because I'm not as familiar, but I'm not sure if you addressed this or if you didn't address this. It was a great presentation, by the way, and you are much funnier. You are much funnier than I knew. So yes. Anyway, okay. So can you talk about the job-related training? Does that need to be with a community college, registered training program, or something created with the employer and private training provider?
So our experts in which related instruction provider qualifies are the U.S. Department of Labor ATRs. And during the process of setting up the standards for a registered apprenticeship program, the training providers are identified and verified. And it's different in every case. It depends a lot on what are the requirements. It's absolutely, registered apprenticeship is absolutely employer driven. And so the requirements for both the on-the-job learning piece and the related instruction piece lie with the employer. And it's an excellent question, thank you. All three of the entities mentioned are all, in many cases, the providers for related instruction. So in some of the best cases, it's a combination of the three. So it might be a community college for relevant materials. It has, obviously today, it has a new element and criteria often revolved around virtual instruction. So it's a combination of finding the right elements or the right competencies in the related instruction, and it might take the form of several different providers, or it might take the form of one of the aforementioned providers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question is, how are expansion funds being doled out?
Okay, so we did talk a little bit about that. It's an excellent question though, because I talked a lot. I mean, that was like a long series, like 45 minutes of talking. So I wouldn't expect anybody to pull all the good stuff out of there, but we're going to have a competitive process request for proposal process. We'll have criteria identified in the request for proposal applications. So when the proposals are put in, you'll know what the state is looking for this distribution of regional funds. And the group that we talked about being responsible to receive funding would be a regional implementation consortia. And so we'll have recommended entities that should be on those groups in those consortia to make sure that we meet all of our goals. And the majority of all of that funding is going to come through those consortia into regions at the state for the expansion activities. So that's kind of the lion's share. The other projects that were mentioned, like the Raptor system, that's for progress tracking and reporting, will take up most of the remaining funds as well. But those are the primary distribution mechanisms for this funding.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How about, are we still seeing wait list times, sometimes up to 2 years, for registered apprenticeships in the skilled trades?
Boy, that's an excellent question. I don't know. We meet with the labor trades here on the 24th. I know that there has been very lengthy wait lists. I also know that it depends on the occupation that you're looking to get into. In many cases, we do not have wait lists for registered apprenticeships, but there may be a wait list if you're looking for a specific occupation in one region, and they've had an established mechanism to bring job seekers into the apprenticeships. So I don't know. I'm not feeling like I'm answering the question, but I know in some cases there are not wait lists.
Okay. How is the mark different than the existing certification?
Wow. So it would be good to know what the existing certification is, but let's talk about the mark for a moment. The mark is intended to clarify and document the elements required both in skills, in learning, for a job seeker who wants to become a registered apprentice. One of the biggest complaints that we have from entities in the state that have been involved in pre-apprenticeship programs, employers, students, parents, job seekers involved in pre-apprenticeship programs, is that often they don't result in a registered apprenticeship. So we have an individual, it's a job seeker, wants to get into a registered apprenticeship, they go through a pre-apprenticeship program, but they don't find themselves landing in a registered apprenticeship as a job. So the mark is intended to clarify what exactly the requirements are per occupation for a specified occupation, so that the job seeker, the employer, and the educators all clarify what those requirements look like. We're going to get guidance from the state level advisory board to help set kind of the template or the format for those certificates, but we expect them to be a portion of the related instruction and the on-job learning that's part of the occupation itself, so that the job seekers have a solid pathway into a registered program. Great question.
Back there.
That's all right.
Tried to shut the camera off.
No, I think it feels like reality TV, Michelle.
I guess, man. Okay, so are you only considering regional consortia, or will a statewide industry consortia also be considered?
So we've been asked a couple of times now a similar question, and that's an excellent question. Remind me now, what is the term? A statewide?
The question was, are you only considering regional consortia, or will a statewide industry consortia also be considered?
Statewide industry consortia. I would think that a statewide industry consortia could be well positioned to make application. The challenge would be is who is the consortia made up of? Because we are looking to significantly expand the alignment with the other departments and systems across the state. And so we will be looking for entities, and it could be that they already have participants that are well aligned in each department or segment necessary to make sure we're successful in the region. It could be a broad state level consortia that absolutely meets the requirements and has an impact across multiple regions. I can't see why we wouldn't make that fit.
Okay, so I also have one that says, this gentleman works with refugee clients in Washtenaw County that normally do not have a solid education when they arrive. Apprenticeship is the perfect answer for them. I would like to know where I can find apprenticeship opportunities for my clients so they can have a long-term career.
Great question. And thank you for your understanding. The apprenticeship model does lend itself because of the structure involved in both working and learning, and the skills are reinforced on both sides of the equation. So it is a powerful solution for those who have not previously been, in an occupation, so they don't have a lot of experience in the occupation or may not have the appropriate education. So it is a great model for that. I would start out by developing a relationship with your regional apprenticeship success coordinator. And I didn't leave the slide up very long, but the standard way to have access to them, the best way to access that list of people by region would be through the michigan.gov/apprenticeship page. And you'll find down towards the bottom, there's sort of a signature at the bottom of that page. So it's www.michigan.gov/apprenticeship. And on that page at the bottom, you'll find links to a page that has all of the Michigan Works apprenticeship success coordinators listed there. That's the best way to get started. They know about programs taking place in your region, and they can help you to access the program or to get on a faster track to prepare an individual to be an attractive candidate, a job seeker that could be a candidate for a registered apprenticeship program. That's the place that we would suggest you start.
Thank you, Scott. It looks like I've been through all the questions that are in the chat, and you've done a great job. We really appreciate that you were here, and yay, we made it through our first workshop session. Please, everybody, stay after. There's exhibitors and networking. So we're going to be closing this session, but we'll be taking a break. And then if you could come back after you visit the exhibitors and sponsors and networking until 12:15. So thank you so much. Again, we will post presentations, the PowerPoints on our website after the conference. And if you have any other questions, you're always welcome to email me, and I will make sure that Scott gets them. My email is programs@michiganworks.org. Thank you so much. Everybody have a good day.